Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about note taking because if there is one thing that I can say, it's that good notes make study and project work so much easier. And I learned this a little too late, and I've encouraged it to all of my students to ensure that by the end of most of your lectures, you should be able to have enough notes there to go away and do pretty much all of your assignments and your projects with just needing to go and find good enough references and things like that. So let's get into note taking. First of all, when it comes to note taking, you have to use the right tools. Now, obviously everyone will go back to the trusty pen and paper or notepads, and you should always, I still have a notepad. I kept notepads for my uni work, but I also had spaces on my computer or my tablet where I would take notes. So the first place you could use is just your Microsoft Word or Google Notes, but have a space where you are going to dedicate to write your notes. You can also use things like Evernote to take notes. You can also use digital planners and journals. I have one linked in my bio that I used as well, which has notes pages in it, and where I would note down little points that I would get during my lectures. What this does is it makes it easier for you to go back and review the notes that you have made during your lectures. And you may do this color coded, you may do it with bullet points, but it will give you a space that you can record effectively your lecture notes and then go back and review them at a later stage. Organize your notes. Now, this can be simply having your A4 sheet of paper in Word with headings, subheadings, tables, and graphic areas and things like that. There are some notes that I took in lectures that have headings based on the slides that we spoke about. There are some spaces that have headings based on the learning outcomes that we were covering in the session, but it can simply be a Word document or a Google document with headings and subheadings. If you are going to use an app to do it. So for example, if you use OneNote on Microsoft 365 or if you use Evernote, you can have different folders that may collectively have spaces for your notes, but make sure that you are documenting them and organizing them in a way that when you need to go back onto those notes, you know where you're going. So you might just label it lesson 1 with the date, just so you know, oh, this was the lesson that we spoke about, the PDSA cycle or something like that. So have it clearly outlined and documented what it is talking about so that you can go back and review it later. Summarize, don't transcribe. Now, if you do record audio during lectures, that's great, but you're still going to have to use those dictated notes or dictated voice notes to go back and effectively create your notes. So when you are taking notes, summarize the main themes of the topics that have been shared. So for example, if you were speaking of the PDSA cycle, you are going to write maybe PDSA down the side of the paper and just summarize what each section is about. If you were in a reflective practice lesson and it was on emotional intelligence, you wouldn't write about every single bullet point that came under the 5 different topics of emotional intelligence. You may write the 5 different topics that came under emotional intelligence and just note down keywords and key points that was mentioned from those elements of the subject. So you're not transcribing, you're not writing verbatim what the lecturer is saying or the online lesson is saying. You are just jotting down a summary of what has been discussed. Review your notes regularly, especially if you have tests. Now, I've already spoken about making things like flashcards, and it's very easy if you have summarized the topic to transfer your notes into flashcards. But also, if you are writing an assignment and the notes that you've taken are going to feed into that assignment, or you are looking at those notes to see what kind of literature you're going to review to help support your assignment, you're going to need to be able to review those notes regularly up until you start writing, to be able to understand what you're now going to do when it comes to configuring your assignments or your presentations or whatever you're doing. So make sure you're going back to look over those notes regularly to keep the information in your head. It's almost like regurgitating it on a regular basis to make sure that you have retained the information that has been shared. And finally, highlight and annotate. I love color coding. I think it's the easiest way for me to be able to look at something and visually link things. So for example, if I am going to be writing a reflective account or something like that, and I was focusing on the elements of a Gibbs cycle versus a Kolb cycle, I might write certain elements of Gibbs in one color and then write elements of Kolb in another. So make sure that when you are taking notes, you are highlighting it and you're annotating it. You can use annotate function on Word and simply clicking on a word and writing comments down the side. If you are doing it on paper or using a digital planner, you can write notes down the side on your notes book or your digital planner. So make sure that you're leaving yourself little hints, tips and tricks to know why you've specifically written those notes on that topic. Is it for your assignment? And if it is, how is it relevant to your assignment? Is it for a test? If it is, what is the question that you think potentially could come up? Make sure that you are effectively highlighting and annotating it with purpose. Effective note taking can immensely enhance your learning journey, and especially if you are a busy person, a mom, a wife, a husband, a dad, and you are in an education space but you have additional responsibilities. Note taking in the moment of the lecture, knowing that you can go back to that and review those notes, can be so helpful when it comes to configuring and putting together your final assignments or preparing for exams. So I hope this video has been helpful. Let me know in the comments, and as usual, if you like this content, don't forget to like, share and follow me, and I will be back in the next video.